bringing my what ifs back here with a new what if. And also, I apologize for not uploading in a while. I've been dealing with some things, and yeah. So, this is what if Deku lost his memories. So, let's get into some background of this. Well, it starts off with Izuku, as this is around when he is going through high school. See, in this one, as in all my what ifs, UA is a college. So, yeah. As Izuku is walking through the town, going back to his apartment, as at this point he has lost his memories, so no recollection of what happened from a couple months ago, because that's all he could remember. Except the one thing that was there next to him was a sword, which he just carries, which he just has in his house, in his apartment. And when he goes back to it, when he gets back to his apartment, he just stares at the sword for a couple of seconds, and then it says, Izuku, can you finally hear me? As Izuku thinks he's going crazy, as he says, what? As then the sword starts speaking again. Oi, can you actually hear me this time? As Izuku replies back with, who are you? As the sword replies back with, it's me, sure. Don't you remember me? As the sword continues talking, saying, of course you don't remember me. After all, you decided to erase your memories of what happened then. Yeesh. I mean, I understand, but you could have at least tried to keep some of your memories. As Zuki's going like, what the hell are you talking about? As then the sword goes on to say, of course you don't remember. What do you remember, Izuku? As Izuku replies back with, well, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I woke up in this crater a couple months back, and, well, you were next to me, so I just took you with me, and then I got a job, continued with school, and got this apartment for really cheap, surprisingly. Yeah. So you don't remember the... Okay, well, I won't try and bring back memories that you obviously wanted to forget. So, do you still want to be a hero? As Izuku gets a flashback to when he was a kid, as he sees his mother, but her face is blurred out, as we're talking to a doctor, he's saying, Miss, as when the doctor would say Miss Midoriya, it's muffled, as he says, well, it seems like your son has a quirk, but we're just not sure how to determine what kind it is, because all the normal tests that we'd usually run don't seem to be working. So, come back in, say, couple weeks, and inform me of any changes young Izuku might have had to see what kind of quirk he had. As Izuku's mother replies back with, sure. As Izuku, finally just, jolts back, awake from that memory, as, then he goes back in, as then he says, Mom, do you think I could be a hero even though I don't know what my quirk is? As Inko replies back to him, of course, honey. You can be whatever you want to be. As then Izuku jolts back to the present, as Izuku's realizing that he does want to be a hero, and as he talks back to Ashura, as he said, yeah, I think I do. I don't know why I want to be a hero, but I have this calling in my chest that's saying, do it. Be the world's greatest hero that they've ever seen. As Ashura says back to him, well, now that's the Izuku I remember. So, you want to get to training? As Izuku says, yeah. But, how do we start this? Kind of familiar with this kind of stuff. As Ashura says, well, can you get me off this mount? I don't really like it up here. As Izuku says, sure. As he attaches the sword to the belt. As he gets dressed out of his school uniform and gets into some casual wear, which is what you see here. As he also has a belt on, which he attaches to the back of the belt. As when Izuku goes outside, Ashura tells him in his head to go to a forest, to the forest nearby. As Izuku agrees, as when he's walking to the forest, he subconsciously walks towards the crater. As when he goes to the crater, he sees a skull-like marking in the center of it. As when Izuku walks up to it and touches it, his clothes morph into this. As Izuku is shocked, saying, what the hell is this? As Ashura says, well, seems like you still got your power, so let's see if you still have the skills. Subconsciously on that, I hope. As Izuku starts, unsheaths Ashura. As along Ashura is this black sword, but above the hilt is this kind of face. But above that face is many, many cracks. As he looks like this. When Izuku unsheaths him, he asks, why are you cracked? As Ashura says, well, this is one of my forms, and the cracks you can control with your mind. As Izuku says, huh? As when Izuku swings the sword, the sword doesn't fall apart. As he asks, so how do I do that? As Ashura says, well, just use your mind. It's pretty much, think of each one of these cracks, each one of the shattered pieces of me, as an extension of your body. As Izuku just connects to each one of the pieces as they all float apart from each other, as it extends to make a longer blade. As then, when Izuku opens his eyes, he sees this extended blade, with each one of the cracks being surrounded in a purplish, greenish aura. As then, when Izuku just snaps out of it, it goes back together. As Ashura says, well, that was a good try for, well, I guess your first try. Let's see if you can do better. Just try swinging me, I guess, and let's see what you get. As Izuku starts, slashing with Ashura at a tree, as then Izuku's eyes change, where it would usually be white on the eye, where it would usually be white, it turns to a black, a really dark black. As then his eye, the outer edges of the his eye get coated in a glowy purple color, with his iris changing to red, as his pupil turns into a star pattern, a star. As then Izuku's mouth starts clenching, As then he starts smiling. Izuku doesn't notice this, but then he starts laughing as he keeps on slashing at the tree more and more and more, and to the point where Ashura catches on fire. As then with one more slash, he creates a giant shockwave of energy, which takes out 4 trees nearby. Well, 4 trees, including the tree that he was slashing at. As with this happening, Izuku snaps out, and his eyes go back to normal. As Izuku says, "What the hell was that?" As Ashura says, "Well, seems like you still have your fly power." As Izuku asks, "My what power?" As Ashura replies back with, "That doesn't matter right now. We just need you to improve on your sword skills." As Izuku's mind flashes back to his mindscape, where he sees him. He's in the POV of himself training against 3 people, with their faces being blurred, but with one noticeable thing being all 3 of them are girls. As then he comes back to the present. As then he gets another flashback as he's fighting someone. As he's all he can see is red towards this person. As he starts fighting this all he can see is this person, as the actual him is getting angrier and angrier. But then he snaps back to the present, with him clenching his fist as his hand starts to bleed because of his nails digging into his hand. As he notices that his nails were growing into claws as they went back to normal. As he notices that his nails went all the way through his hand to the other side. As he's confused, but then his hand heals, which he finds really strange. As all you can see on his face is this shocked expression. As Ashura says, "What the hell just happened?" As with Izuku clutching his head, he says, "I got this memory of me fighting this guy. The only thing I can remember from it is he had these star-like eyes." As Ashura goes silent. As a couple seconds go by with Ashura saying, "Well, let's get back to training." As when Izuku gets back up, he goes towards another tree, but this time, instead of just slashing at it, he actually starts using a technique, which Ashura is shocked by. But then Ashura says, "Well," all he says to Izuku is, "Do you now remember my name?" As Izuku just says, subconsciously he says out loud, "Let your crimson flames roar, Ashura." As the sword that you see here morphs into this. As when Izuku is holding the sword in front of him, he's shocked as he then talks back to Ashura, "What the hell was that?" As then he says, "Well, it seems like you finally remember my name." Well, probably remember my name, I guess. This is how I should say it. As then when Izuku looks closer at the sword, at the top of the handle he sees this switch. As he turns it, as then the sword turns into the scythe. As then Izuku's demeanor changes. As he says, "Well, shall we have some fun, Ashura?" As then, by some weird thing, Izuku's hand just moves on its own as he switches it back to the sword form. As then Izuku falls to his knees as he starts clutching his head, as he gets another glimpse into his past. as he sees Inko saying, well, you see, Doctor, I think I might have found out what Izuku's quirk is. See, yesterday, I took Izuku to, my father's, my father's, house, and, Izuku was playing with one of my dad's kendo swords as my father was playing with him. As then Izuku got knocked to the ground. As then Izuku just saw that as Izuku got up and asked his grandpa, if he could try holding something real. As Izuku's grandpa took him over to this giant greatsword he had, and when he held it, Izuku's demeanor changed, as it was like his personality flip-flopped, as when he was holding the sword, his normal cheery, happy persona changed into this cold, heartless person. As my dad asked Izuku, well, you want to try sparring with that kid? As when Izuku looked at him, he had this cold expression on his face, as Izuku disappeared and appeared right back in front of my father as he slashed down at him, as then the sword fell out of his hands and he changed back to normal, as he asked what happened, as he clutched his head. So I have the feeling that it might be some kind of alternate personality kind of quirk, as Doctor has his hand on his chin as he says, well, that's odd. Not many quirks involve a different personality. Especially, you said he was holding a sword? As Inko replies back with, yeah, what of it? Well, I have the feeling that, if we would, it might be something to do with the weapon that he was holding. As Inko says, you think? As then, the Doctor pulls out a scalpel from his desk, from like a drawer on his desk, as he asks Izuku to hold it. And when he does, nothing changes about Izuku except the Doctor asks him to try cutting this piece of paper. As when Izuku cuts this piece of paper, it's cut perfectly in half. As the Doctor says, as I thought. It seems that your son has the ability to use any weapon or tool with such perfect technique that, well, it might change his personality to suit that weapon. As when Inko looks back to the past when Izuku was holding the greatsword, he noticed that his body also changed to suit that weapon. As then Izuku goes back to the present, as he says, so that's my quirk. That's my power. That's what happened. As he starts clutching his head as he's getting a major headache. As he said to Ashura, so my personality will change with this switch? As Ashura says, well, yeah, you catch on pretty quick even though you lost your memories. Well, that's impressive. So I should inform you. This is my base form, which it doesn't really alter your personality. It just makes you really good at using a sword. But you were already really good at using a sword prior to me coming into your life. But whenever you use the two alternate forms of me, well, I guess I should really say the other three alternate forms of me, your personality changes. To one of them being cold and calculated, one of them being angry and, well, berserk, and one more psychopathic, as one would say, which is the one that you just felt when you used the scythe form of me. And when you use these alternate forms of me, you gain the perfect technique while using them. As when you first found this out, I was shocked when you changed into your more psychopathic state and was able to you were able to keep a calm personality while in that state. You learned how to control them. They would still be active, you just have the ability to control them back then. Don't think you will. I think you'll have to relearn how to do that. That's nice to know. As Ashura turns back into his normal form, as Izuku sheaths him back up. As when Ashura turned back into his best state, Izuku went back into his casual clothes. As Ashura says, "Well, let's get back home. Well, to your apartment." Izuku says, "Sure. Well, let's go." As skulking in a tree nearby, he said, someone is looking at him and saying, "Well, I guess he forgot us. We'll have to tell them." As we go back to Izuku's point of view, as he's going through the city, as he bumps into a spiky blonde-haired kid. As the blonde-haired kid says, "Which way you going?" As Izuku says, "Sorry, didn't mean to bump into you." As when Izuku and the spiky-haired kid's eyes meet, he says, well, the spiky-haired kid says, "Izuku?" As he doesn't say Izuku, he says, "Deku?" As Izuku starts clutching his head again, and he goes back to when he was a child, and he was getting pushed around by, as we know, as Bakugo. As Izuku grabbed like a stick nearby, as he would be like around 4.5 years old, and when he tried slashing the sword at Bakugo, it had made a tiny little cut on Bakugo's cheek. As Izuku then just runs. As then we go back to the present, as Izuku runs straight towards his house. Well, to his apartment. As when he gets back into it, he slams the door. As he starts clutching his chest, where his heart would be. As it's beating incredibly fast. As Izuku says in his head, "How do I know that kid? I feel like I've known him all my life, but I can't put my finger on it." As Ashura says, "Well, I guess with your memories erased or forgotten, yeah, you would forget him. And I guess kind of for the good, considering what he did to you." As Izuku asks, "What did he do to me? I feel like I want to rip his heart out. I don't know why I'm thinking that. And that name he called me, for some reason, it brings me this anger that I can't control." as Izuku starts clutching his hand into a fist, as his hand starts bleeding again, as it heals. As Izuku says out loud, well, that regeneration's gonna be nice. As Ashura says, you have no idea, considering how many times you really needed it in the past, and yeesh, the times you almost died because of it. As Izuku says to Ashura, I almost died because of regeneration? Well, as Ashura replies back with, yeah. See, you had this giant piece of metal put into your chest, and it was put in there forcefully. So your body reacted and almost sealed it in there. Took you a while, but you got it out just in the nick of time. As like 5 more seconds prior to that, well, after that, it exploded. As you were covered very severely in burns, but your regeneration kicked in. But if you noticed, you still do have some scars. That would be because prior to your regeneration kicking in, you would get into quite a lot of fights, and you retained quite a lot of scars from them, which I'm surprised you got away from that. I'm also quite impressed. As Izuku starts smiling, saying, well, that was a fun story that you told, but I'm gonna go to sleep. As Izuku puts Ashura on the table, as Izuku wakes up the next morning, as at the table, sitting in a chair, is this giant muscular man with no shirt on, just these blue and red pants, and these markings across his entire body. As Izuku freaks out, crawling into the corner of his bed, as, well, Ashura says, calm down, Izuku. It's me, it's Ashura. Oh, yeah, I should have told you that I can manifest myself into this. Yeah, so I can do this. But this can only happen either when you use your Bankai or whenever we're not in battle. But I don't really feel like you're gonna be able to reach your Bankai for a while. Ugh. Still can't believe it only took you, what was it, 6 hours to learn it? And a day to master it? Ugh. Shocking. You were quite a prodigy when it came to learning all the stuff. Everybody around you was kind of envious. And me, I was quite proud. As Ashura has his fist right above his chest, as Izuku goes out of the corner that he was in, as he walks over to Ashura, as he goes up to one of the cupboards, as he asked Ashura if he wanted anything to eat or drink. As Ashura says, I have the feeling that you would know what I want. As Izuku just in Izuku's mind, bacon and eggs appear with a side of coffee. As Izuku makes 2, one for him, one for Ashura. As Ashura says, I knew you'd know how I like my bacon and eggs and my coffee, hopefully. As when Ashura takes a sip of the coffee, it's cooked it's made to perfection. As then he bites on the bacon and eggs, as he starts crying, as he says, well, just as good of a cook as before. How the hell did you manage to make them so perfect? As he wipes his eyes, as Izuku says, really, they're that good? I mean, I know that people like how they taste, but never gotten that reaction before. Well, mainly because I've only really served it to one person. Yeah. Well, still, Zuko, these are really good. Also, do you happen to know when the entrance exam for UA is? As Izuki says, well, I believe it's in 10 months? Perfect. Well, I guess for these next 10 months we could train. I think that you should bring some food with us this time. And drinks. Like a lot of it. As Ashura says, let's go on a little bit of a spree to get some food. Also, you might want to get any things that you hold dear, because we'll be gone for those 10 months. And I don't think that you'll be able to return here. I mean, you'll be able to make a bit of money when we get to place. Yeah. So, you think how long do you think it's going to take you to get all the stuff you need packed up? As Izuki says, it shouldn't take me that long. I don't really have anything that I need to bring with me. As when Izuku is gathering all the stuff that he has, he's going through like stuff underneath his bed. As then, well, he gets a glimpse back into his past, as he's doing the exact same thing. As his mother walks in, as he says, "What are you looking for, Izuku?" As Izuki replies, well, this is a younger Izuku, as he replies back with, "I'm looking for my All Might action figure. I can't find it." As President Izuki wakes up from that jolt, as he says, I guess I had an All Might action figure that I was obsessed with. I mean, I know he's the number one hero, but as yeah, this takes Izuku around like 15 minutes after that, as then him and Ashura leave the house and go to the shops. As Izuki has around, I'm not gonna even put it, he buys all the food that he can gather, and all the food and drinks that he can gather. As Izuku asks, why am I bringing all this food? Well, because we have a long way to travel to get there. As Ashura takes Izuku and him to an alley, as he puts his hand into like this straight position, as he starts sliding his hand down, as it starts creating a white, well, fissure, and or you could say like a slash in space, or well, in the air. As Yuku freaks out, saying, "What the hell is that?" As Ashura says, "Well, this is a portal that can take us to a different dimension." As Izuku's eyes widen, "We're going to another dimension?" As Ashura says, "Yeah, we need to go through this dimension, and then we just gotta travel a long while." I mean, I know we could teleport there, but I feel like that you'd be able to get more training and get your body back up to how it was during this time. I mean, it will only take us like a month to get there. As Yuki says, "Well, fuck, I guess that's how this is going to be." As Izuku and Ashura go through the portal, as when they go through this, into the portal, he comes out into a forest with white and black leaves on the trees. As he notices that they kind of look like cherry blossoms. Or cherry trees. Yeah. Whatever it would be. But drained of the color. As Ashura says, bingo. Welcome to, well, I prefer to call this the negative world, where time runs quite differently here. Luckily, here also you will age at the same rate that you would in your normal dimension. It's how you would usually train. But we need to get to a specific place, because there we can also change the gravity of that area to make it more difficult for you to train. So yeah, let's go. As Izuku says, well, how long? You said this trip was going to take a month. Why? As Ashura points up to the sky, as Izuku says, why are you pointing up there? As then Izuku sees a mountain appear out of nowhere. As at this point, Izuku says, I see why this is going to take us 10 months, it'll be in a month. Okay, let's go. As I said, it would take a month for them to get there. As during the last 9 months of training, Izuku remasters how to use a sword properly. And he finds out about the fact that he can use holification, as he also learns how to semi-control his other personality states with, his Zanpakuto, Ashura. As Ashura also tells him about why he can holify, as he goes into the story of how Izuku met the hollow that lives inside of him. The hollow inside of him being, as well, the hollow would call him, the god of hollows, with the name actually making some sense, considering the fact that he could control hollows and create hollows. As Izuku says, so, what you're saying is, I have a thing that can create the monsters that take and eat souls inside of me? As Ashura replies back with, you nailed it. As Izuku asks, so, how am I not dead? I should be asking. Well, you see, he's kinda scared of you, I guess. You really scared the shit out of him and made him submit. Honestly, really impressive when you put it into the grand scheme of things. So, any other questions? As Izuku and Ashura go back to their training, as Izuku learns how to summon his Hollow Mask. As when he brings it out and he looks into the mirror, he sees what he'd think he see. He sees, well, his inner self he sees what he'd think his inner self would look like in the form of his Hollow Mask. As when Izuku he also finds out how to control, his full holifications, he learns how to properly use his mask, as he is beginning to learn how to use the Vasto Lorde form portion of his mask, which, it looks, this is out of context, but his, this is just how it looks, but Izuku's mask is, it has the same color palette, being black and red, but it looks similar to Ichigo's with the two front horns, but it first goes as two back horns, with the two front horns connecting to the back horns. It's a whole thing. I might draw it, so then I can show you guys what it looks like, but that really depends on how I feel. So, let's get back into it. So, he learns how to control his vascular state to an extent. He can control it for around 5 minutes before he goes out of control. But whenever he uses his just plain old mask, he can stand that for, well, however long his mind will let him. As that really only takes them about 7 months, so that's really leaves them 2 months left for training. As all Izuki now wants to know is why he forgot his memories, and also what happened to want him to lose his memories. As Ashura tells him that he tells him what he is, as Izuki says, well, Ashura tells him that how he is a Soul Reaper, and he goes into the full extent of what a Soul Reaper is, as he also tells him the extent of his Zanpakuto, being, well, Ashura explains himself, as then he also explains his Bankai, as by this time, yeah, Izuku is fully mastered the Bankai state that he has, as I'll leave that for, well, the next part, which I'm not saying it's going to end now, but yeah. So, as Izuku asks, yeah, I understand that I'm a Soul Reaper, but what caused me to want me to forget why that I was a Soul Reaper? As Ashura says, well, you went through this traumatic event that really stunned you and made you want to destroy everything and everyone you saw because of, well, your nemesis. I'm not going to tell you his name or what he did to you, because I have the feeling that if you were to remember, you would go back down that whole path of wanting to destroy everybody in your path. And I'm not really wanting to engage on that. As Izuku replies back with, that's completely fair. As when Izuku completes these 9 months of training, well, the 10 months of training, he goes back down. Well, it takes him not even a month now, because he has complete control of his holification, and also Ashura taught him how to travel between dimensions. And in that last dimension, that last month, he was traveling between dimensions, as he made some good friends along the way. One of them, as he made friends with a dragon, vampire, werewolf, witch, as he made friends with all of them, as he also saved them, as he also knew about the fact that if he was to get into a jam, he could use their help with something. Well, he could use their help. As he goes back to his normal dimension, and he gets a new apartment, with it being a week from the entrance exam, as by this point Izuku has made a lot of money for doing errands for people, as he has been a delivery boy, as he makes a lot of money from in the fact that he gets tips because he gets to their houses really fast, because all he does is run there. As this only takes him about 5 minutes between each delivery, as he also has become well known in like the fast food industry, being the fastest delivery person that they've ever known. As Izuku has gone to the point where he has amassed a small fortune just from tips alone, as he gets a nicer apartment than he had before. As this brings us to the point of the entrance exam. As when Izuku makes it to UA, he doesn't really bump into anybody of importance until he brings in the fact that for like the past 10 months he didn't really attend school, but he had it under the personal category of why he wasn't at school. But for some reason, at that point he still could graduate on the grades that he had. He could have graduated at the start of the year, but at the end of the previous year, but he didn't, because he wanted to just get he just wanted to stay in school for a little bit longer. This being a completely different high school than what Bakugo and like everybody else went to, because in this one, UA has this high school that you can go to for like you have a little bit of a higher chance to get into UA. You go to the high school prior to the college, so it's pretty much just a high school connected to the college. But all the high school really does is help you with some of the questions, and also what they might teach you in the UA college portion of the stuff. So when Izuku walks in to the hall where President Mike is telling them what's going to happen, and he doesn't really explain the practical part, but he explains the theoretical part, as it takes Izuku around 10 minutes to complete the whole theory exam. As that's where I'm going to leave it for this part. And if you enjoyed What If Deku Lost His Memory so far, tell me in the comments. So if you want, like, subscribe, and have a nice day, evening, or night.